Jordan obviously is a former student at Tattnall, a former athlete, and he has credited his athletic endeavors as the reason that he wanted to do well in school and eventually why he graduated. I think he credits a specific coach with that. So after that, he joined the Marines and traveled the country learning about different people and definitely history as well. Came back, went to college, dedicated his studies to Civil War history, antebellum South, and has just been very interested in race relations, is biracial himself, and so I think he identifies a lot with a lot of his students, especially his athletes. I think he wants to be that teacher and coach that he had, and I think that's very motivating for him. So in his career at TCHS so far, he has really cemented himself as somebody in the community that is kind of a student and parent favorite. He has won multiple awards. I think he's won Coach of the Year, Assistant Coach of the Year for the region 3 times. He was a recipient of the Best of Battle Creek inaugural award for outstanding alumni, and has just really been what I would say on the right track, and has done a lot for the school. He's very dedicated. It's not unheard of for him to leave a game where he has coached and go to another county to scout. In fact, on the day that the news kind of broke about his situation, he was out of pocket because he was at the school mowing the grass at the softball field and didn't have cell phone service. So that says a lot. A few days after he was relieved of his coaching duties, that he was at the school still helping out. So with that being said, I guess a timeline of events from my perspective of the reason that we're here. Jordan was called in to meet with the new principal and some of the administrative staff with really not a lot of, actually no guidance about what the meeting was going to be about, which is not the most fair, but he was told when he got there that he was essentially being unprofessional on social media, and that he was going to be suspended from coaching for the next year. So that was relayed to him as a final decision. There was a conversation about what their view of his professionalism was, and that was sort of the end of that. I mean, I think one specific comment was pointed to during that meeting, but that was about it. The next day he came back to pick up a letter that was meant to be a summary of the discussion that he had had, and when he got it, it didn't mention anything about his coaching situation at all. What it did accuse him of was politically and racially charged banter, and that's a pretty broad description, and it's something that I personally would not want on my record without any context given to what the discussion was. Because what you have is a history teacher that's on the right side of history, and no reference to what his position actually was in the conversation. So when he questioned why that was the case, the answer was essentially, coaching is not something that we have to offer, and it's sort of a privilege, and that it would be possibly a more positive direction for the teams to go in to have someone else have the chance to coach them, which indicates that there would be a negative situation. I think it was actually stated that it was a negative situation, and that someone else could bring more positivity to the program. That right there tells me that the students, the athletes, the parents of the athletes were not consulted. Not that they necessarily should be, but to have the view that he did not bring positivity to the program is just wholly inaccurate. Like I said, he won Assistant Coach of the Year 3 times. The idea that he possibly brings politically and racially charged banter to the field or the court is also, in my opinion, ridiculous. I'm a former student athlete, and we didn't have time to do things like that on the basketball court or on the softball field. Our coaches especially didn't. Obviously, he's an assistant coach, so he was under the direct supervision of a head coach at all times, and where he is not under anyone's direct supervision on a day-to-day basis is in the classroom. but apparently his classroom behavior is fine, or we're not worried about that, I guess. I don't really know. So, I mean, he did question that. Why am I able to teach and not coach? Why aren't you worried about me there? And the answer was, well, maybe I am, but I just don't know yet. I don't know you. And I think that's actually one of the most fair statements that was said. You know, I don't know you well enough to make that decision. And I agree. I think there should have been a lot more discussion and investigating going on before any decision was made. But I will say that when he came back to get the letter that day, it was given as a final decision. He specifically asked. And so then about a week later, when the news broke, because he told his team that he wasn't going to be coaching them anymore, that's when, you know, we heard through the news outlets that there was an investigation going on, which was good to hear. We didn't know that beforehand, and I don't think he's been contacted to investigate any matters on his behalf. Maybe information's coming from somewhere else. So the letter that he was given to sign that accused him of politically and racially charged banter also mentioned that his colleagues were concerned. And I do understand that either the complaints were made by or communicated by colleagues on the behalf of parents. And that's not all that surprising, but what I think is being missed here is that most of his colleagues are in support of him. Well, I shouldn't say most. I would say that I personally have been contacted by at least one person from every school in the district with support for Jordan, and typically anonymously. And I think that's pretty telling because I think you've got a group of employees that don't really know what they can and can't do anymore. And I think that they aren't speaking out because they don't know what the rules are. Or they just don't want to be involved. That could be the case. I will say, as far as I know, in Jordan's case, he doesn't have very clear direction about what he can and can't do. He was told that he was being unprofessional, and that was about it. I know y'all don't have a social media policy for the school district. I just think that he's not really being set up for success. As a teacher that is a very dedicated teacher is not being fully supported and set up for success. With clear direction on what he should and shouldn't be doing and what the resolution path would be if he happened to disagree with any of that. I know he was provided a dispute form of some kind or some way of moving forward with that specifically stated that it wasn't meant to be used for his exact situation, so then he was sort of left with no recourse. And I'll say the community support and even national support has been pretty overwhelming. There's a petition right now, y'all might have seen it, it's got over 5,000 signatures. There's a public Facebook group with over 500 members that are keeping up with as many updates as there are to keep up with. And you guys all probably know this, but there was a hearing this morning because the legal team has moved forward with a lawsuit and the school system has been served. And the hearing this morning, he won. So I guess that means that he is due a hearing now, a disciplinary hearing of some kind. So I just wanted to say, you know, as somebody who has managed a team before, I don't feel like employees are really set up to be the best that they can be, especially in this case where they're being their best for the students when they don't really know what the rules are and they don't have the support of their employers. So I think that's about it. And I'm having the person a former student started the petition actually without any direction or request from anyone, and she offered to have a download of the signature, so when I get those, I will send them over to everyone.
Right. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your concern.
Thank you.
This time, Ms. JoAnn Henderson.
Thank you. Thank you to the board. I'm going to stand over here because I won't take my hat off. I don't think you'll have any trouble hearing me. I'm a pretty loud talker. But I have 3 items that I want to address the board about. And the one on top is about Jordan. I, unlike Tiffany, have not known Jordan very long. I don't really know Jordan. I just know that as a lifelong citizen of Tattnall County and a mother who has put 4 children through the Tattnall County school system and who's currently getting ready to send 12 grandchildren through the Tattnall County school system. This is an issue that hit very close to home to me. In my first knowledge of Jordan's situation was from my daughter, who has a 15-year-old son who's very familiar with Coach Huerta. And they were very upset. And the reason why they were upset was because they felt like Mr. Jordan had been treated unfairly by the school system. Upon further investigation, I called Jordan, looked at his Facebook page. I felt him to be a very open and very direct young man. He was not hiding anything. Nothing that I found was neither politically, what was the term?
Racially charged banter.
Politically charged banter. I did see a conversation between him and another parent that they had that the parent disagreed, but he was only giving factual information. As a history teacher, he was giving her what the facts were. Of course, he also expresses his opinion about where he lands on racial issues and also about the American flag, which was not charged or politically charged from what I could read. He was just someone trying to educate someone who had issued a question, and to the best of his ability, he was trying to answer that question. Whoever the parent is that who took exception to this, I don't know her personally. I don't know him personally. Whoever they are, I don't know them personally, but I did read what they were posting before it was removed. They were the one emotionally upset about it. The information that Jordan gave was very factual. It was plain and it was direct. At no time was he insulting to her or him or whoever it was. But I felt that he handled it in a very professional way. And I have to commend him for that. And the way that it was handled with his suspension, I still, in my opinion, feel like it was a rush to a very wrong decision. And I have stated this in an email to our superintendent. She told me that there was an investigation going on, and I have very, very eagerly awaited the decision in that investigation to see what the result would be. I like to pose for pictures.
I feel like I missed out.
But I stand here not only as what I already stated as parent, as grandparent, but also I'm president of the Tattnall County NAACP. And we take issue anytime that we're even suspecting that it may be racial bias has taken place. Because our job as an organization is to identify and eradicate racial prejudice wherever it's found. I felt like the lady, whoever was on the Facebook page, she may have been emotionally charged in her response to Jordan. But I felt like his response was very professional. And I would even say kind, because he was very respectful to her. And I feel that as kindness, because he was trying to educate her. And because of this, he has been taken down from a position that not only he loves, but the people that he coaches, they love him as well. Tiffany is right. We do have a Facebook group that is very much in support of him and his position. The NAACP is very much in support of him and his position, and I do want to state that and make that clear. That's my first point.